All right, let's get it. What's up, everybody? It's Robert Peppo, back again with Small Business Uncensored, episode 23. Now, I appreciate you guys sticking with me, listening, tuning in, commenting, subscribing, sharing. Please continue to do that. I hope to bring valuable content to you all the time, keeping it interesting, and more guests are coming on soon, but I'm going to be doing weekly drops, getting more consistent with it. So we're in it. Number 23 is going to be about the cost of opening a restaurant. Now, these concepts can also be applied to all businesses. But as I've said a lot, I stick to what I know. Business, fitness, army, it's about it, right? That's my lane, and I stay in it. So I'm going to be talking about opening restaurants, what it costs. But today's cool part is I'm going to bring a bit of history in from how my father opened our business in 1976. And a lot of things have changed, and I'll kind of touch on that over the time. But I think it's pertinent to see how creative people can get and what they do and how they do things. And then you can hopefully pick up on that and apply it to yourself. So I'm going to start with the timeline for Peppo's. Basically how we started, how my father started, how we've grown, and where we're at today, and what we're going to be doing going forward. All right, so you can kind of pull from each one of these segments throughout our history and what we've done and how we've done it to apply for yourself, and think about it each different stage of the way until we're at our bigger stage now, right? So all these things took time, and we learned the hard way a lot of ways, but going through all that brought us to where we are today, and I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for all the experience, the good, the bad, the ugly, because without that, it probably would not have led to where we are now and what we're going to do. All right. So going back to 1976, my dad had a plan to open a restaurant, Peppo's Subs. And they decided to do it with three friends, okay? They all put together $1,000 each, okay? $1,000, $1,000, $1,000. $3,000 was a total initial investment. That was all they needed at that time. The rest of it was their own hard work, building it out, doing all the, decor and design and all that, and then finding some new equipment and some used equipment, right? Because they got to do what they got to do. They're young guys. They're trying to build a dream, and how are they going to do that and make it possible to be successful and around for a long time? So back then, $1,000, maybe $10,000 today. So three friends get $10,000 together today. That's pretty feasible. I would say it's definitely doable. And it's definitely on the low end, especially with something that's had such longevity as us. That's a fucking great investment. I mean, kudos to them for getting it done back then and then carrying it on. But here's the interesting part of it. And I asked them, okay, how much did you put in back then? And I kind of already knew the general answer, but I wanted to ask him for this again. And he said, we put in about $1,000 each, and then we never had to put in any money again. Okay, so boom, right there. Here's where I'm getting at. They put in $1,000 up front. They got them started. If you can hustle, get customers, do the right things, keep your profit margins, you can cash flow the rest of it, which they were fortunate enough to do, because you don't want to keep putting money into your business. There are some times to put money in, for sure, perhaps an outside investment, a business loan. People take home equity loans, second mortgages, do things like that. Okay, when you have to do what you got to do and you have a plan, you can do those things. I'm not here to talk about any of that. I don't like those strategies. I'm not for them. I will never do them. But you can cash flow the rest of the things you need to do once you open. So you get open, let's say with a small investment. You create your sales, all right, and hopefully the repeat sales, repeat customers. And then from that cash flow, which there should be profit, you can do the other things you want to do that perhaps you weren't able to do in the beginning because you only had a small minimum investment. I think that's the best way forward because it doesn't lie to you about what your business is doing. If you have the cash flow coming in and you're able to do a few things, even if they're small, but you're able to say, hey, we can get creative, We know what we got to do. And in the beginning of these things, you can't just pull money out. Everybody wants to make money. Everybody wants their salary. You don't want to forsake that. But at the beginning especially, you should keep money in the business, build a little bit more onto the business, and make sure it's on strong footing. Build a good foundation, and then you can go forward after that. That's what they did. So I was not around for that, so I didn't see it, but it 100% resonates with me because of how I've done things and how we're going to do things. As you see this progression in the timeline, you'll kind of hear these things. A lot of what I'm going to say is how to get creative as fuck. And then at the end, I'm going to tell you, yes, be creative, but also hedge your bets on winning by doing all the right things up front so you don't have to worry about it and go backwards or take out additional loans or do anything else, right? Because if you want to invest in your dream, a lot of people are going to do whatever it takes, sometimes to their detriment, to keep that alive. But I'm going to tell you what you can do to not have to sacrifice anything more and have debt and have anybody else need to be involved in that besides you, whoever your partners are, your employees, your customers, and doing it how I think, maybe the harder way, but the better way. All right. And again, to each their own. These are just what I've been through because that's what I know. And that's what I talk about. So take that for what you will. I think some of these things can apply to all businesses. All right. So that was one, how my father did it, being creative, low investment, and using cash flow for the rest of their things that they've done just coming up. All right. So the first partner got out with them about a year after. He wasn't involved. He didn't like it. He was just there seeing what would happen. Okay, so then they were left with two. And they were together for 25 years. My father and his partner, who was his best friend growing up. And it was great. You know, they have a good family. They still come in, say hello. They're cordial. But my father bought him out. That was about 20 years ago now. And that was the best move ever for us, right, as a family. For sure as Jim, because then he's the sole owner, Mr. Peppo. But then also for me because of who my dad is and what he's allowed me to do and what I've been able to do. I'm forever thankful for that. So he bought him out for $50,000. Yeah, for $50,000. And was able to cash flow that through the business to pay that off, which was awesome. So again, we're getting creative. How do we do these things? What can we do? We're lucky to have a pretty solid business to be able to do those sort of things. You can take out loans and stuff like that to buy somebody out or whatever, because the long-term payoff for that's really good. And you can spread that payment out over time, which is fine. And you can do that, but the business should pay for it. The business pays for their salary and all that. So that's how you cash flow it. Are you getting me? Run things through the business. Let the business run for you. This is what it's there for. I haven't found a time and place to do personal monetary investments except for time. Putting in your time is what the owner invests over the long term. Putting in the owner's money is not necessarily where I would want to be. You can do that, but I don't agree with it. Somebody can, fight me on that if they want to, but whatever. All right, so at that time after my father bought his partner out, we were looking at moving. We had always been looking at moving. We were in a small spot, 500 square feet, and we were doing pretty good. The parking lot was always full. It was shit-ass parking. The restaurant was always full because it wasn't very big. But we knew we had something good, right? But we knew we didn't want to move communities. We didn't want to start over again, but what could we do? So we did decide to move our location just 3 blocks north to where we are today, which was an awesome move. Okay, and that took about $60,000 because it needed a complete build out. It was nothing. Before there was nothing built out, so we had to do that. Excuse me. And so we did that. But again, my dad was creative and said, okay, we'll take out a small loan to do that, but we will cash flow the payment so we don't have to drain our resources. I was just coming into the business then, so I really wasn't aware of the money exchanges then. I was involved in, doing it, of course, but I wasn't involved in the money aspect of it. I would help him do things, manage it, and pay checks, but I wasn't thinking about it like I do now. But he did it, and it worked, and we cash flowed to pay it off. Okay, perfect. Same thing, cash flowing it, letting the business handle it so you don't have to put out a ton of money at first. Okay, that's one way. I like that. But we were creative as fuck. We had to do a complete build-up, but we did it the right way. We bought a few new pieces of equipment, brought over some equipment, We've had good relationships with other restaurant equipment vendors, and we got some used pieces that were awesome. Much bigger spot, great parking, the best corner in one of the best corners in our community we're at now, and the biggest piece in the strip mall is what we have. So we did that, and it worked out great. That's when I start to say, okay, damn, we filled this up too now. The parking lot's getting filled. We're busy again. This is really good. And so I started to think about what could we do. So unfortunately, the restaurant or the place next to us, which was a flower shop, was going out of business. And we had a cordial relationship like we do with everybody. So they were kind of telling us, hey, we might be leaving. We're not sure what we're going to do. Well, as soon as I heard that, before they were even out, I called the landlord and was like, hey, we want that spot. I want to expand. I want to take double unit. And so we did. And at that time, I was coming up, so I was real hungry to do a few things. I had saved a little bit of money. And I told my dad, I was like, hey, let me do this. Don't worry about it. Here's how I approach it. This is the getting creative as fuck part. I said, if this doesn't work, don't pay me, okay? But I said, I saved this money. I want to put it in, right? He put in money. I want to do this. I promise I will not sacrifice your pay. You will get paid no matter what. This is my payback to you. But I think we need to expand to open up the seating even more. I think it can grow our revenue. I think we can handle more people, look better, and do what we've always wanted to do. And again, God bless my dad. He said yes. Man, I was probably a little bit more forceful at that time, I could imagine. But we did it. So I don't know, I probably saved like 15 grand or something to do it. We had to bust down the whole cinder block wall, tear out shit that they had, rebuild, put in a bathroom, redo the office, get all the booths, everything in, and then connect the whole store so it looked good. We put a whole thing across the front. And so it took a little bit of time, but we did it with the money that I had saved through the business, right? This was a business money. And guaranteeing my dad's money, which meant I sacrificed myself. So for like a period of like 3 months or something, I didn't pay myself to make sure, right? So not only was one, money going out, but two, I didn't want to keep taking money when I wanted to replenish that money, because what if there's the next thing I want to do? Because of course there's the next thing I want to do. And so we did that, and it worked out great, right? So the common theme so far as we've seen is low monetary investment, okay? So think about that for yourself. You can do it with low money, not no money. Sometimes you can do things with no money, but probably not unless you're incredibly handy or can do all of the work yourself, which I cannot do. But also, since I hold myself in a good personal financial position, which was not always the case. I'll do a whole nother video on that. All right. But as I came up at this point, I'm fast forwarding, this is a long-term business, years. All right. I'm fast forwarding to I was in myself a good financial position in order to say my input to the business is sweat equity. I will work 80 to 100 hours, which I did. I will not get paid. So then we can cash flow, make sure our employees are getting paid, because I just put this money out. Now we got to build it back up and make sure everything else runs smooth as if nothing was fucking touched. So we did that. That was my give back. And I think that was probably about 3 months. And then I was able to, take a check again and do that and build up our savings again. Which was awesome. So that worked out really good. So now we're getting into the bread and butter of opening an actual full restaurant, our restaurant number 2 in Tinley Park. Okay. That was another couple years later. And how I've always done it was cash flowing. Common theme, right? Common theme. I'm going to fucking bring it home. Cash flow. Again, this is what I did. I said, okay, this store crushes it. And I think we could do it again. And I think we could do even better. And so I said, well, again, no one else is sacrificing besides me. This is my idea. This is my goal. Jim, Mr. Peppo, you're, at the later stages of your career and what you've built. Let me take the stress, responsibility, money, all that on myself. Just give me the blessing. All right. Again, I was probably much more stern than that. And so he did. And we were looking for another location. I was stacking up money and doing the things that I needed to do to be able to handle my sweat equity investment with no pay coming back, because that's just how I've seen it work, and I'm thankful and lucky to be able to have done that. I don't know. At the point I had about 25 grand, I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I think we can do something. All right. I knew that might not be quite it because we're looking at a whole build out, and we had looked at several locations and some took full build outs. And I didn't know what I was going to do if it needed a full build out because I only had $25,000 in cash. And so I was like, fuck it. I'll figure it out when the time comes. What we need to do is find a good location and we'll fucking figure it out. It's what we've always done. And I'll sacrifice the rest. Luckily, Peppo's one is really good. And if we need a cash flow a little bit more out of there than what I was able to set aside, fine. I'll take the fucking hit on that. So we stacked up a little bit of money. Luckily, we were bouncing around looking at stores and nothing came up right then. So I was able to save some more. Sacrificing myself. Again, I saved. Once I got to that point, I was saving things and not getting paid. I was just putting it to the side. So yes, at some point, I would say yes, that would come back to me, hopefully. Or I could start to derive a paycheck and it's there if we didn't expand. But if we did expand, I could double it up, triple it up, whatever it was if we were successful. So I wasn't paying myself in order to do this, all right? Restaurants do good, but it's not like they're fucking cash cows, okay? They absolutely can be, and some absolutely are. But the reality is sometimes you have to be creative as fuck in order to make that happen. And just in my story, in my situation, I was able to do that how I did it. And so we got to the point that we found the Tinley Park location. We were very fortunate to have some restaurant equipment there. And we could just do the things that we needed to do. Now, it had walk-in cooler, walk-in freezer. That was about it. Everything else in terms of what we used to function, restaurant tables, equipment, steamers, slicers, all that, I didn't have shit. But this is what I did. I had been buying pieces of equipment and putting them in a storage unit for about the last year. So as I was saving money, I was also buying pieces of equipment. All right. And I would put it in a storage unit that we were paying for monthly, knowing that my ass was going to fucking expand. Okay. Didn't know where, didn't know when, didn't know how, but I knew I was going to fucking do it. And again, when you go all in, you do these things to say, fuck, I have a whole restaurant sitting in fucking storage right now. I better fucking do this. Or I wasted all that money and wasted all this time, talked a bunch of shit and didn't do it. But that also made us not pay out a whole chunk of money at first. You know, so maybe that full initial investment was around 50, maybe 75 grand or so. But that was over a period of a year or two that I was saving money, buying pieces of equipment, cash flowing it, and then having some cash available on the side. And it worked. So we find our Tinley Park location, build it out. All right. And we're going back to this cash flow thing. All right. We were fortunate enough to have good name recognition, pretty decent spot, and using social media, we were able to be pretty fucking busy when we first opened, and we did not need to touch any more money. Okay. We cash flowed it, and I will say that we fucked up probably a lot of the money because we got really busy really quickly, and at that time, it was more money than I had ever had. Not only did we make our money back quickly, I was able to get paid, and I didn't have to. I didn't stick to my principles, and I should have. I didn't save the money and cash flow it and stack it up for the next move like I did 2-3 times already before and like I'd known. What was happening is both stores were busy. We were crushing it. So I thought, fucking right. I did it. This is fucking working. And just youth and inexperience, because I was 28 at that time. I bought my first house, bought my first Mercedes, and was like, fucking right. We're fucking killing it. And we were. We were doing well over $1 million in sales. So we were cool, man. And if you run your business right, you can, cash flow things through the business. You have business expenses, and it's all good. And it was all good. I absolutely do not regret any of it. Let me tell you, because without experience and going through it, you don't fucking know. And at that point, I wasn't ready to open another location or doing anything else. So again, my perspective was shifting a bit, and I don't regret it. Looking back, I would not have done that again, and I sure as fuck won't do it again going forward. And we were investing in different things in the business. Catering setups, logoed out fucking bags, cups, everything to look like a major brand, right? We were putting a ton of money into this, and even bringing new things to the market that we haven't seen in the restaurant industry. And since we had a bunch of cash, which was a bunch of cash to me, which I know now it wasn't a ton of cash, we thought we were fucking solid. Fast forward a little bit over that, we never had to put any more money into that business. The business cash flowed itself, and we did not renew our lease after our first initial 3 years because the building was sold and I could not buy it. again, like I just said, I was throwing money out the window, doing things. I was never wasting money, but doing things I thought I needed to do. The building came for sale. It was over $1 million. I had just bought my first house, and I couldn't get it. And so went to a new landlord, and we didn't have a good relationship with him at the beginning. He tried to strong arm me. He didn't give a fuck what we were doing. Told me, don't do this, don't do that. You can't do this. I told him our plans, told him who we were. He didn't care. He had a bunch of locations, didn't matter to him. So we just didn't renew that lease. It wasn't going to be a good move going forward. I wasn't going to sacrifice Peppo's One. Again, I was in a good enough position to make a decision where I didn't need that store. I was financially secure enough, no debt, great credit, some cash set aside, that I was making business decisions, what's best for the business, Peppo's One and Peppo's Two, my father, my family, Alex, everybody involved. And I also know that I'm ambitious as fuck, so this ain't shit. I'll do it again. So we did close that store, all right? We had made all of our money back. We were all getting paid. It was all good. It was a business decision that wasn't going to be a good fit for us going forward. And so we closed that store. I think that was one of the best moves I've ever made. I think I learned a ton about business, about landlords, about real estate, about cash flow, about running multiple locations, which set me up for what I am doing now, which will be the final piece to this fucking podcast. Without that, I would not have the insight I have right now. I'm forever thankful for that, for the mistakes and the successes. All right. So now what we're going to do for opening our restaurants in my franchise system, we will take elements of what I've done, but because they are elements of what I've done, the good, the bad, and the ugly, I've built the plan very specifically to hedge our bets on being as successful as possible. All right, so it's me saying, okay, there will be a little bit more upfront costs because we want to do this right based on all this history that we've had of doing this. This is what we believe will work. This is what we need to do, and this is what you need to do. Together, we will make this work for a long term. All right, so outside of this initial investment, I am sticking with it. You can cash flow the rest of everything that we will do. Okay, and I will not be the franchise owner, Peppo's corporate, the franchisor, that is looking for a cash grab early on. I do not want that. I like to be successful. I like money. I'm in this to make money and be successful, for fucking sure. Grow our brand, take care of our people. That's what the fuck I'm in this for. But if they are more successful and they are successful long term, they have great salaries, they do good business, they enjoy what they're doing, they will do that for a long, long time. They will then turn into our best salespeople. Say, Peppo's is a great fucking investment. Because if we have other owner-operators and they do good, we will all do good. Do you get this? This is how this shit works. But how I've built the plan now will be a much more sound, complete investment going forward. Now, I will always be creative as fuck. And I will encourage my partners, the new franchisees, owner-operators, to also be creative as fuck. And we'll do that together. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is have this plan set and say, this is our initial investment, right? There'll be a licensing fee, the upfront costs, the build out, your dry stock inventory, your food stock inventory, your training costs, your payroll. Okay, there's been some times that I wouldn't have considered all these things unless I'm doing this next big thing. All right. All this down what they'll expect. Now, their build-out changes. The build-outs are the biggest parts. Let's go from, let's say, where we're at now. We have a nice store. It's decent, but it's not 100% modern and beautiful and marble and shit versus like Texas Stay Brazil, one of my favorite restaurants. You see the investment difference, right? So where we're at is going to be a big difference in build-out based on where we are at now, what I want to see in our next stores, if it was a restaurant already, and then go from there. So that investment can range from $20,000 to $100,000. It's really going to depend on the next owner operator, the location, what it needs, and what we're able to do. Okay. So that's where the big investment's going to vary. But my baseline of people who are going to be involved with me will have to meet the maximum criteria in case we find a location that requires that. and we hedge our bets on success because we are ready for it. There will be some variables, 100%, but we will require to have X amount of money for the upfront cost, licensing, business license, all that, training for the franchise owner and then their manager, the build out. Okay, we have to have money available for the build out because we got to do it right based on what we've known since we've grown 3-4 times already. All the inventory that was required, the soft opening, all the food stock for that, and then your staff training, and then payroll. Payroll is going to be the most important. And I will not be charging a licensing fee, at least for the first 3 months, something like that. So they can stack that cash up like I've done so you can cash flow what you need through the business and or just be secure and not have to worry about things. How we're going to do that is talking and sitting down and getting creative as fuck and telling them why, okay? And once I tell them why, there's not really any debating it, okay? It's pretty cut and dry. So our initial investment, I think it's like around 163,000 now for a Peppo's franchise. And that's all in. Now that's what you'll need to do it, let's say. But if your build out is only 50,000, well, that comes down to 113,000, right? So it brings it down incrementally if we can save money on costs. I'm not trying to be too frugal, but if it's been a restaurant before, has something there, maybe the landlord's willing to do some stuff with you for permanent fixtures, awesome. All right. That gives you a quick down and dirty about where we've been, how we've done it, and the reality of owning a restaurant or a business. You need to get creative as fuck, but you shouldn't have to put any more money in after you have the idea and the concept, put the money in, and hopefully through sales, you can cash flow the rest of it. That's what we've done. That's what's worked. Once we're going forward now, I don't know that I'll ever put more money in because we've done the same thing now. Since I got back from Afghanistan in 2020, we have been saving fucking ridiculous. We've been improving our credit, which, can't really go too much. We've just been not fucking it up, all right, because it's really good. To be set up to put the money into this franchise program, lawyers, trademarks, all the documents, the recipe books, the manuals, getting all those professionally done, all of our binders done. And then also having cash available for the other things that I just haven't thought about yet that come up. So we don't have to take a loan and don't have to sacrifice ourselves. But again, I'm in a position where if I had to do it because I believe in this success enough, I will make the sacrifice. I will cut my pay. I will do those things. I will figure it the fuck out like we always have. But we have money set aside now through cash flow to open and launch our franchise program. It is the slow way. It is the hard way. No loans, no banks. But I think it is the better way. No one can tell me shit. We do it our way. And hopefully it works out. And if it fucking doesn't, oh well. But I'm never going to let that be a thing. It will work out. We're all in. I appreciate you guys talking. I appreciate you guys listening, subscribing, sharing, liking. Really, every time that happens or I get a message about what the fuck I'm doing, I appreciate it so much. It gives me fuel to continue on. And without you guys, I'd probably still fucking do it. So I appreciate you guys. Hope you liked it. Let's get it.